The world will always be full of conflict. No matter where you stand in the social or economic hierarchy, you will always find yourself in the vast vicinity of competition and confrontation. Everyone wants eternal peace, yet for so long in this exceptionally visceral and well-documented history of humanity, we always see the pattern of conflicts and reconciliations repeat themselves all over again. They can never seem to achieve that permanent state of eternal serenity, because it doesn't exist and never will exist, as human beings of every generation will always have their own selfish agendas to pursue, develop, and protect. And as always, not everyone will be on board and want to manifest the same visions, as some will view them as necessary revolutions or inevitable salvations, while others will view them as unnecessary disruptions and imminent threats. We are all bound to engage in conflict and make enemies along the way, one way or another at every point in our lives, and the ones who desperately and continuously reject them are the ones who will eventually lose. As your eager and impulsive avoidance in confrontation translates to your lack of confidence and substance in your own self-assertion. Those people who ignorantly condemns and despises all forms of conflict are secretly disguising their pathological fear of them behind the cover of false warmth, but will jump into one passionately and wholeheartedly on the vividly winning side of the table on every opportunity they can. They are pretentious cowards and devious bandwagoners. Now, all of this doesn't mean that you should constantly go out and about on the street needlessly and pointlessly looking for enemies and confrontations. Obviously not. Keep it sane and constitutional. You're not an utter imbecile who unnecessarily look for trouble in order to get caught up in trouble as a result. You also have to know which conflict is worth your time, energy, and resources to engage in. Only engage in those conflicts that are necessary and can benefit you in the long term. Contrary to the shallow and angsty perspectives that having enemies will only bring you endless misery, it can actually become a clarifying blessing in disguise to have them. How? Let me explain. 1. Enemies can give you a sense of purpose and direction. This is the most important one. Enemies can viscerally expose your weaknesses and vividly showcase the type of person who you don't want to be. And through that clarity, you can develop plans for improvements, values to live by, and establishments or ventures to pursue. Their main purpose, whether it is personal or not, is to completely shut down your momentum towards achieving your goals and objectives, to make you shift your focus towards entertaining them while inadvertently losing grip or diverting away from your plans, and to take you off center from your emotional tranquility through discovering and poking at your insecurities in order to try to get you to make mistakes and suffer the consequences. These are how they can expose your weaknesses. There will always be both a cognitive and emotional warfare both with yourself and when dealing with the conducts of your enemies. You will often feel this added pressure and intensity towards you must succeeding in your pursuits and proving them wrong at the same time. And providing you are in the right mentality will tremendously help to sharpen your instincts and keep you vigilant and considerate with every move you make. Because you are not just climbing the mountain now, you also have to fend off threats while climbing. Utilize the objective clarity that your enemies initially gave you in order to keep yourself refocused and concentrated. Enemies will always get you to become more emotionally invested than usual, and it is inevitable because they are posing as a direct threat trying to completely remove you from relevance and existence. However, it is your duty to objectively control and utilize that additional oomph and stakes to ramp up your responsibility and consistency to remain entirely focused on your tasks and win through your actions instead of your words. It is all about the battle of integrity and objectivity, especially in this day of age where everyone puts a huge emphasis on putting your money where your mouth is, exposing dishonesty, and delivering tangible or plausible results as a measure of credibility. Number 2. The amount and quality of enemies you have translates to the amount and quality of your deeds. Whether it is good deeds or bad deeds, the more diversely vast and notoriously renowned your enemies are, it always reciprocates vice versa to the degree of impact, influence, and scale of those deeds. Now, of course, I'm not encouraging you gentlemen to be serial killers, rapists, swindlers, and dictators for the sake of making leaders of multiple countries as your enemies. But in civilized essence, the more real-world value you have and demonstrate, the more authority and influence you have over others, the more people will want to either join you, support you, benefit from you, or destroy you. Having more friends and associates will automatically give you more enemies. As I've said before, not everyone will be on board with what you are, stand for, preach, build, sell, and demonstrate. It is a law that is absolute. And those further network of connections that your friends and associates have that will eventually be introduced to you, not all of them will be fond of you and what you are saying and doing, and their antagonistic perspective of you will spread among their associates whom you haven't known yet. thus indirectly making yourself even more enemies. Having valuable friends will consequentially give you dedicated enemies. The same thing as having more volunteers and worshippers will also bring you condemnations and debilitations. So don't be discouraged when you have people that wishes you to be dead, because there will also be people who would die for you through your impactful leadership and contributions. Because you are someone of valuable qualities that a lot of people aspire to become. Human beings will not offensively or defensively react when the circumstances surrounding them does not pose an imminent threat to their autonomy, livelihood, and ego investments. And the more threat you pose to them, regardless if it is intentional or unintentional, the more they will try to stop you from doing what you're doing. So don't be ignorantly naive, defenseless, or easily seduced and caught up in the moment when people would flock onto you as you become more valuable as a person. Because most people will try to put their best face on and lower their self-worth excessively just to desperately get connected with more people. And that leaves you nakedly exposed or become easy targets to devious mischiefs. And speaking of being naive, number 3, having enemies will allow us to develop the capability to objectively distinguish between real friends and foes. We all often enter a social interaction and bonding with open arms because we do not like to make situations uncomfortable for the other parties. We often like to think that everyone is a peaceful individual who just want to get their social needs fulfilled like the rest of us. Harmony and good times, right? No one is of possible threat, right? We're all civilized and righteous individuals with solid principles, right? Yeah, right. We rarely think or contemplate deeper of a person's true motives until they inexplicably demonstrate them in front of us or we heard about them from someone else that we can trust. This is what will make you vulnerable to a quote-unquote friend or associate who is secretly an enemy. A very simple example is a friend who betrayed and utilized you for his or her own conveniently selfish objectives and leaves you empty-handed and helpless with a spat of ridicule and avoidance. You must prevent yourself from being emotionally consumed and egotistically pig-headed during moments of losses, that you start to shift the entire blame on the dishonorable ethics of your enemies for your own misfortunes. You got taken advantage of. You got dismissively benefited like a front door carpet. You lost. And it is mainly your lack of sound judgments, preparations, and experiences in identifying the true intentions of individuals that come into your life. Most of us will never know how to make a thorough and sound judgments of others without experiencing the circumstances of being betrayed or taken advantage of, often multiple times. As I've said in a previous video, traumatic events will motivate us to become way more guarded and prepared towards similar circumstance that leads to or caused that trauma. Similarly, through those experiences, you will become wiser and more knowledgeable in vetting those deceitful people that tries to get close to you. Fine examples would be those who always contact you just because they need something from you, usually big favors in the form of money, reputation, and connections. Those who excessively give you compliments and affectionate physical touch to try and flatter you into obedience or friendship. And those who try to target or question your values, morals, and ethics should you refuse their offers. Enemies can benefit you if you can put them in an objective and dispassionate frame of mind, but they can also further destroy you if you put them in a vindictive, paranoid, and neurotic frame of mind. As one will help motivate you and give you an elevated sense of responsibility and integrity, the other will escalate your uncertainty, carelessness, and prejudice, which will result in your agitative, edgy, and inefficient mentality to desperately get rid of them, and it will leave a wide room for consequential mistakes to be made by you. Thank you for watching.